Hi everyone, Whitney here with another of our Clinical Insights videos, and today we're going to be talking about the ladder of engagement. This is a model for organizing your treatment process and treatment techniques into a sort of staged process. And one of the things this ladder of engagement does is gives you a very wide diversity of approaches and ways that you can address different types of conditions and different stages of problems that are going on with your clients in a very unique way. It really allows you to take some of the basic and most simple techniques that you already use and create a wide group of diverse variations on those techniques that will be tailored to be just appropriate for each unique client situation that's presented with you. So we're going to go through this model of the ladder of engagement, look at some of the different facets of it, examples of it. We'll see a couple video clips that show you exactly how this is done, but use this as a model for how you might incorporate it into your treatment and make your treatments much more diverse and I think far more effective as well. Let's go take. There are 4 rungs or levels to the ladder of engagement. The first is a technique with no involvement from the client. This is a passive technique performed just by itself. The second one is technique plus movement. Some technique is performed in conjunction with another type of movement. The third level is technique plus movement plus some type of active muscle contraction. The fourth or highest level is technique plus movement plus a muscle contraction and additional resistance. Now we'll explore each of those different levels of the ladder and when we would try to use them in different applications that we're doing with our clients. So here's an example of a technique done on that first rung or the first level of the ladder of engagement. It's just a technique by itself. The client doesn't do any movement. The practitioner doesn't move them in any way. It's just a simple passive technique. So there's no other muscle contraction or anything else being done here. So here I'm doing just this stripping technique on the supraspinatus muscle with a thumb working from the more distal end of the supraspinatus over toward the attachment sites along in the supraspinous fossa near where the levator scapula is. The client is completely relaxed and passive while we perform the technique. Now this can be done, as we're showing here, in both different directions. But again, the key component of this is in relation to the ladder of engagement that there is no movement happening here, no client engagement, and no other additional forces or load placed on the muscle that's being treated in this particular technique. Okay, here's an example of a technique done on the second rung or second level of that ladder of engagement. This is technique plus movement. Here what we're going to do, we're going to apply a technique to the anterior leg region. We're going to be treating the tibialis anterior and the anterior compartment muscles here, and we're going to do a passive movement as we do this. This technique is also called pin and stretch. The idea behind a pin and stretch technique is we take a muscle in its shortened position. So you'll notice here the foot is in full dorsiflexion, so those muscles are in a shortened position. And then we'll pin or put pressure down with the thumb right in this area here. And then as we do that, we'll stretch or elongate the foot into plantar flexion. So there is movement along with pressure applied in the pin and stretch. So we pin here in the shortened position and then we stretch and elongate while applying that main pressure on there. So this is an example of a technique using the second rung or second level of that ladder of engagement, technique plus movement. So as an example, pin and stretch here for the second level of that ladder of engagement. Now we'll move up to the third rung or third level of that ladder of engagement. This is going to be technique plus movement plus active muscle contraction, either concentric or eccentric muscle action. We're going to demonstrate this here on the forearm flexor muscles first. Now what I'll do is establish with the client here that they're going to keep this motion going. So I'm going to have her get that motion going, a flexion and extension in her wrist. And I'm going to do a stripping technique on those forearm flexors each time she brings her wrist into an extension movement. So as the muscles are elongating through her forearm, I'm going to do a stripping technique on those muscles at the same time. This is coordinated with her movement, so each time she does that extension movement of the wrist, I perform the stripping technique on those forearm flexor muscles. So that once again, this is the third level or third rung on that ladder of engagement. This is technique plus movement plus active muscle contraction. Now, as we'll see here with some of the other things that we're going to look at in just a moment, this could also be done with an eccentric muscle contraction as opposed to concentric. I'm putting some greater load on there as well. That's what's going to happen as we come up to the fourth level or fourth rung of that ladder of engagement. Now for this fourth and final level of the ladder of engagement, we'll look at technique plus movement plus active muscle contraction plus additional resistance. So in the third rung, we saw an instance where we had the client moving, just like in this example here, working on the biceps brachii. She's moving her arm up into flexion and extension, back and forth. Now what we can do in the fourth rung is we're going to add additional resistance to that. And the primary purpose of this is to recruit more muscle fibers and get a greater density of that muscle tissue so that our pressure is applied much more deeply and directly underneath where our pressure is being applied. So you'll notice I'm going to grab her forearm here with my hand, and I'm going to engage a contraction by telling her to hold her arm there and don't let me move it. Then I will tell her, now slowly let that go. And as she slowly lets go, then we'll do a stripping technique as we do an eccentric contraction with an additional load on there. Here's what that will look like. I'll say to her, hold this here, don't let me move it, and then slowly let that go. And as she slowly lets go, I'm going to have her keep the eccentric action going in there while I perform a stripping technique, bringing her arm down into full extension. So once again, this is additional load and additional resistance on that biceps brachii. I'd say, hold this here, don't let me move it, and then slowly let that go. And as she slowly lets go, I do a stripping technique while I'm pulling against her resistance there. So this is a contraction and resistance. So I'll say, hold this here, don't let me move it, and then slowly let that go as we bring it back down into that position. It's a very effective way to work a lot on these different muscles, especially the extremity muscles that have a lot of chronic overuse problems in them. We'll explore that in much greater detail in the courses as well. So there's a general overview of the ladder of engagement concept. You'll see this provides the opportunity to create all kinds of different variations on the ways that you're currently doing things and give much more specific targeted treatment to your clients that's going to be appropriate for their unique presentations that they bring to you. If you want to get some more input and ideas about how to actually incorporate this with a wide variety of clinical problems that your clients might be presenting with, come on over and take a look at some of the courses where we show you how to engage this ladder of engagement methods with what you're doing with your massage treatments. You can find those over on our site at academyofclinicalmassage.com. We'd love to have you come join us over there. Thanks again for listening.